opposites versus absolute values. So we're talking about opposite numerical values versus absolute values. A lot of times students get those confused. We're going to go ahead and explore that today. Alright, so an opposite of a number is just the number on the opposite side of 0 on a number line. So in algebra, we use letters. The opposite of A would be negative A, and the opposite of negative A is A. So we can go ahead and add that to our notes. And our essential question would be to compare and contrast opposite numbers in absolute values. So go ahead and add this to your notes. You can get an idea of what opposites are, and then we'll try some examples. Take a moment and try the example. Give the opposites of each of the numbers, -3, 147, 5, and -17. And your answers would be 3, -147, -5, and 17. So all we're doing is we're switching the signs. We're asking, hey, if I'm on the right hand side of the 0, I want to know what's going to be on the left hand side, same distance away. You might see it in this fashion as well. In mathematics, we can write it out and say the opposite, that's what the little subtraction symbol means there. Okay, it's negative, means opposite. The opposite of a 3. The opposite of 18. Try those out, see what you get. So the opposite of a 3 is -3. The opposite of 18 is -18. What happens though if you already started with a negative? Think about it. What is the opposite of -4? What is the opposite of -11? Our answers would go from a negative to a positive. You're switching the signs. The opposite of a negative is a positive. Now we're talking about absolute value. And so absolute value is the distance. Okay, the distance, really important to know that. It's the distance between a number and 0 on a number line. And it's written with these two vertical lines around that number. So, for instance, the question is, what is the absolute value of -4? Well, here's -4. Okay, and I'm asking myself, how far is that from 0? That's how many. How many steps would I need to take to get to 0? And that answer would be 4. The absolute value of -4 is 4. The other question is, what's the opposite value of +4? Okay, so we're asking about +4. That's right here. How far is +4 from 0? And you would count that it is also 4 steps away. So your answer is 4. Let me give you another example. So once again, the absolute value is how far a number is from 0. So if I take a look at this number line, okay, I'm going to scroll this around. I notice, hey, what is the absolute value of, let's say for instance, -6? You can see that, oops, -6, if I could keep this still, is 6 spots away from 0. Okay, as I move it over, the absolute value is always going to be a positive value. Okay, if I go on to the other side, how far is, let's say, 6.8? How far is 6.8 from 0? It's 6.8. So you notice that the answer here is also positive. The next question is to find the absolute value of 2. Okay, so we're asking yourself, all right, so if I start at 2, how far away is that from 0? And you would say that it's 2 spots away. Your answer there would be 2. You would write it mathematically using the vertical line. So you say the absolute value of 2 is equal to 2. Absolute value. Now we've all seen the $5 footlong commercials from Subway, and a lot of times that helps me remember absolute value. When they throw out their hands and make these vertical lines with it, they're telling you that it is a 1 foot distance from hand to hand. So it's a distance. That's how long the sandwich you're going to purchase is. So you have vertical lines. These are my vertical lines that I tried to draw here. That will help you remember it is a distance. Okay? And absolute values is a distance from 0. So go ahead and take a look at these 4 examples here and try them out. See what kind of answers you get for the absolute value of 7, -1, -5, and 14. should have got 7, 1, 5, and 14. And what do we notice about all of these values? You should notice that all of them are positive answers. So when we're asking for absolute value, distance will always be a positive answer. Next, I'd like you to compare 1 and the absolute value of -4. Okay, so we're going to start with 1. 1 on the number line is right here. -4 is going to be over on this side, but I'm asking for the absolute value of -4. You ask yourself, how far is -4 from 0? That's 4 spots away. So I'm comparing those two numbers. So you can see here that 1 is to the left of 4, so therefore 1 is less than the absolute value of -4. Okay, why don't you try out these next 4? You're going to compare the two values that are given to you with a less than, greater than, or equal to sign. If I'm looking at this, the absolute value of -2 really is just a 2. So 2 compared to -1, 2 is going to be greater than -1. Jump over here to this side. The absolute value of 6 is just 6. So -7 is definitely less than 6. Come over here, the absolute value of 10, well, that's just 10. And 10 is less than 11. Last one, 9 versus absolute value of -9. The absolute value of -9 is just a positive 9, and therefore these two values are equal. For our last question, I want you to order from least to greatest. So if I'm taking a look at this, what I would do is I would notice that this first number, the absolute value of -34, is really 34. 21 stays the same, -17 stays the same, the absolute value of 20 is 20, and the absolute value of -11 is +11. And now you can see which ones should be the least to the greatest. So I'll start off with -17, that's my lowest number. My next lowest number looks like it's going to be the 11, which I would just write the absolute value of -11. The next lowest number looks like to be 20, so that would be the absolute value of 20. Next number is 21, we just write 21. And last but not least, this would be the largest number, the absolute value of -34.